So explain to us what libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. I'm so happy that you are here with me today. A little bit past 3 p.m. on the East Coast, and I got my coffee. So I am ready to go, as I have to be, as I do love my coffee. And I am very lucky today. I have with me somebody who not only wanted to rock and roll and make some impact in her area running for office, but is also in the party, but is also trying to do other things in her local community to make things happen, what libertarianism is all about. I have with me the former North Carolina State Senate candidate and current policy director of the LPNC, the woman herself, Dee Watson. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Of course, happy to have you here.
It's great to be here, and thank you for listening about North Carolina.
Yes, absolutely. And here is the thing that I always ask people. It's a common question I ask. You knew that running was not going to be easy. You knew it was going to be tough, but you decided to do it anyway. Why?
So I'm really blessed in North Carolina because we actually have ballot access. North Carolina has over 50,000 registered libertarians, so we actually have a base. And our base in North Carolina is actually about 3%, which is pretty, yeah, it's pretty good next to other states because
I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's really phenomenal. So in our county, I'm on the XCOM, and we actually ran 19 candidates in our county.
Wow.
So, right, and I helped fill those slots. So I was one of the candidates. So if you lived where I live, you would have had 4 libertarians to vote for on your ballot.
Wow.
So we have a full county strategy. And we're just trying to give choice to the people and increase that base. And it actually is impactful to just have libertarians up and down the ballot from Senate to soil and water. And we're trying to actually fill that ballot out even more.
Well, it's funny, you have, when you talked about things, your message was heavily about 2 things, I think. Choices and education.
Mm-hmm.
That was critical in yours. What were your priorities in your run? What message were you trying to get out? Am I right in reading that as choices in education?
You are. I mean, the message that I try to get out over and over again is libertarians are not about what you should do. We're about moving that to decision to you deciding what you should do.
Got it.
Over and over again. So in North Carolina, we've been very impactful in moving the scope of discussion. And currently in North Carolina, 1 in 4 students are no longer educated in a government-run school. So
is that right? Hold on. Say that again.
1 in 4. And in my county, it's even higher. And in my neighborhood, more than half the students are not educated in a government-run school. I have 3 children, and only one of them attends a government-run school.
Wow.
So
yeah. This is like you're making me want to move to North Carolina now.
It's a great place. Come on over.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, and we did it by working with people, but in North Carolina, the vast majority of people are really wanting school choice, and they're wanting the money to follow the child. So it's a huge issue for us. And even though we haven't had that much election success, what we have had success in is moving the dial on that issue completely and having a lot more school choice and a lot more understanding. The homeschooling population has skyrocketed in North Carolina.
Yeah, we've had that in New York State, also a larger homeschooling population. but our state does not support homeschooling at all. Our state is all about get your butt in a government school now, or we really get mad. I mean, the fact that the idea of 1 in 4, I couldn't tell you what the number is in New York State, but if I had to guess, it's probably like 1 in 20. I mean, it's very low. I mean, the vast majority of New York State and New York City kids are in a government school. The vast majority are. So it's crazy. Desiree says, I'm a North Carolina girl. Way to go, D. So you got a fan.
Thanks.
You got at least one fan, so that's good. So your important issues were choice and education. I get that. But what do you think was kind of what you were trying to physically do? In other words, were you looking at this in a way that I'm going to go around and make speeches, I'm going to try to get on TV, I'm going to try to do local podcasts, I'm going to, knock on doors? What was the way you thought, local newspaper? What was the way you thought you would get that message out?
So we tried to do that. The best way to do that in North Carolina is these forums. We have all of these forums. So I got to meet with the Republican candidate. Actually invited me and my whole family to his house for dinner. I actually got to know the Democratic candidate who won. I got to know a lot of people in the state legislature and talk to them. And our local party held our own forum for sheriff. So the sheriff candidate who won for the county, he's been to our local affiliate multiple times. There are multiple candidates who did win come to our local affiliate. So we have these forums, and we have just getting the conversation so that we can try to find common ground with people on issues.
Well, maybe I'm being too cynical here. Maybe I am. But my worry is they're doing it to recruit you. So you stop running libertarian, right? That's my worry. They're going to be like, oh, Dee Savvy, maybe we can get her to run on our team. We can kick her out of that crazy libertarian party, and we can get her to run on our team instead. Now, am I being cynical, or did that happen?
There is a little bit of that, but our libertarians are just very committed to libertarianism. And we have found that the best way to talk to people is just to stay in the party and to keep running candidates. The idea that you step out, actually, there have been people who have been asked to leave a race to make, in those tight races, leave a race to, we've had that happen.
Yep.
And we always turn them down, and we find that strategy is much more effective. And just to get into these forums, and that's certainly been our experience.
Yeah, I agree. My worry is that they may not agree, right? That they may say, "Wait a minute, how can we get Dee to kind of walk away from them and come join us?" That's always my worry, because in New York State, that is constant. Anytime third parties do anything in New York State, the two big parties go out of their way to just suck them right up. Pull them right up with whatever they can do. The amount of times Republicans have asked me to become a Republican, a dozen, maybe more, I don't know, all the time.
What I tell people is I find common ground on their issues, but the problem I have is on some of these issues, like on school choice, our local Republicans are actually quite good. And then you talk about marijuana legalization, and they're terrible, right?
Right.
So, I'm for all of your freedoms all the time. And that's the difference between libertarians and the Republicans and Democrats. And we're going to work with them on every single issue, and we'll highlight that for them even and speak well of them on those issues. But we have to run our own candidates and do our own thing because we want liberty for everybody.
100%. Brian says, I just had a public school teacher claim that they weren't part of the government, because if they were, they'd have the power to dictate to me. I said that can only be true if you believe that it's proper for any government to dictate anything to everybody. There is a lot to unpack in this one right here, Dee. Piece number one, thinking that a teacher isn't part of the government who works in the public school. And the second part is, to Brian's part, thinking that if I'm government, I have the right to dictate to everybody. There's a lot of stuff going on in that statement there. Anything you want to bring up?
I mean, the problem is actually some of these local teachers are excellent. However, there's a lot more going on in that public school system that's really problematic from up on high. And I don't think the teachers, they are part of the government, but they don't have as much freedom in their own classroom or as much choice in their own classroom as they would like.
Yes, absolutely. I see that here in New York too, right? In New York, I don't know how North Carolina works, but in New York, we make our teachers do a whole lot to become a teacher. They've got to have a master's degree. They've got to do different classes and training certifications. We make them jump through hoops in New York State. Now, the advantage in New York State for a teacher is you get a living wage. In some states you don't. I don't know how North Carolina works, but places like Kansas, I mean, they're struggling in Kansas, right? New York State, a teacher, it's not like they're millionaires, but they're making a living wage. They make somewhere between $70,000 to $80,000 a year. Some make even higher. So in New York City, that's not a great wage. It's a good wage, but not great. Outside New York City, that's a good wage. It's a living wage. Mm-hmm. So people make money. Teachers can survive as a teacher in New York State. However, they have almost no power. They are told what to do in almost every way, shape, and form. Administrators, and in New York State, we're so bloated that our administrators, I'm not joking, make $200,000, $300,000, or $400,000 a year. Yes, wow. I know. I'm not joking. You can do your own homework. That's absolutely true. One of our administrators makes over 500. Yes.
I believe it.
Yes, yeah. That's how bloated New York State is. So our administrators make 3, 4, 5 times the amount of teachers. So what does a smart teacher decide to do? Become an administrator. Why wouldn't they? Right? If you're a savvy, smart, you go, wait a minute. Well, I'm going to sit here and make $80,000 a year and have no power. Or I can get promoted to become administrator, make 3 times as much and have all the power and not deal with kids. So now we have an overblown, overbloated infrastructure to where we have certain parts of New York State where districts have more administrators than teachers.
Yeah, that's terrible, actually.
How does it work in in North Carolina?
So it's not, we have the same problem, but not to that extent. So part of the reason is that there's just the choice, okay? Because we have these charter schools, which are still, they're government schools, but they're not run by the government. So they create a little bit of a market. We have the homeschooling population, private schools. And we also have, we're trying to expand the idea of the money following the child. If you follow Corey DeAngelis, that's really what we want to shoot for. We have not accomplished 100%. That, but I would really I think that would be a vast improvement to what we have here, because given
Corey,
people
by the way, is coming on my show next week.
Oh, he'll be awesome. Yes.
Yeah, so he's coming on. Or do we got the next week? I think it's next week. Yeah. So anyway, please keep going. I apologize.
Yeah. So we're not there, but we're trying to get there in North Carolina. But I think we're much further along the way than New York. And
yeah, you guys are going in the right direction. I love it. We are not. You guys, we got to stop following you.
Well, actually, so my parents, they always, my dad was on the Board of Education for 18 years up in, I'm from the Buffalo area, not Buffalo, but Tonawanda. And yeah, so he was shocked. In North Carolina, we spend a lot less on the per pupil spending. And they kept assuming that our test scores would be worse. And I was like, no, our test score, like in my local district, they're way better than your test scores, even though you're spending twice as much money, because money doesn't actually have a lot to do with success. That's like, 100%. There's a confusion. And in Wake County,
do you have an idea how much money North Carolina spends per pupil? Do you have an idea per kid?
So
per year?
in Wake County, it's almost 10,000. 10, but in some of these
New York State's 29,000.
Yeah,
I wish we had 10. Oh my God, you're like, it's almost 10. I'm like, I wish we could have 10. That'd be amazing.
But Wake County's high. Wake County is one of the most expensive districts. Some of them are Chapel Hill. It depends on the district, but some of them are actually well under 10.
Wow.
And then even so, where I am, the per school funding, the school that is the very worst test scores in Wake County spends 14, and the high school that my kids would go to, which is one of the best, spends 7,500 per student.
Look at that.
So it just really has nothing to do with spending.
There we go. Yes. Sam says, I wish our schools followed Larry's pre-K through 10 plan. Thank you, Sam. I had a whole plan to revamp all of education, which includes what you talk about, Dee, which is to have the money follow the kid wherever the kid goes, whether it goes to private school, public school, homeschool, that money follows the kid. I think it's completely the right answer. So yes. Wow. So, okay. So let me go to the next level if I could. Well, by the way, Brian goes on to say the lack of freedom proves that they are part of the government.
That's right.
Yes. So he's exactly correct. But the piece I want to bring up now, though, is, that you went through this. what impact do you think you had, right? Running all those candidates, can you look back and go, you know what? This changed, or this was impacted, or what was the impact that happened?
So we are definitely impacting the school choice discussion. We're also
Oh, nice.
right. So we also having a big impact on police transparency and accountability. That's
Ooh, very
become
good.
an important issue in North Carolina. We have very problematic body camera footage laws in North Carolina, where in Gastonia, North Carolina, a man was recently shot, and his family would like the body camera footage released, and you can't get it released because the local police are blocking it. So we really are
Mm.
bringing transparency to that issue and trying to get those laws changed. It's one of the most restrictive body cam footage laws in the country.
Well,
So
you were
that's
talking
what
that
we're
you're right
currently.
now helping out using You Are the Power, Spike Cohen's group, to make that happen, to help out, right?
Yes. So what's basically happened in Gastonia, North Carolina, it's a war on the homeless population. There was a church, Faith Hope. There is a church, Faith Hope and Love, and they were feeding the homeless, and they were basically they used fire code violations and such to close them down, and we're trying to get construction trailers moved to
Mm.
their church facility on their private property, which have less restrictive zoning laws or fire code laws. And then to help deal with the homeless population, we're actually having a fundraiser there this Saturday.
Oh,
And
so hold on. To be clear, so okay, I misunderstood. So there are many things happening here in Gastonia. That was one of the things. There's other things too.
there, unfortunately, yes. I mean, what we found is when
Okay.
you have a problem, there's a problem throughout the whole system. It keeps going.
Wait a
We
minute, D. Are you telling me government can't solve all the problems? What?
it is when there's problems in an area, there's a lot of
Oh
problems.
my
So I don't,
God.
yes, it is so true. And
Wow.
so basically they've just had this almost this war on the homeless, and it's really unfortunate. So there was a man who was arrested not for panhandling, but he collected food and money from
Mm.
people who just gave it to him. And he was a homeless veteran, and he has very severe PTSD and has a service animal. His name's Joshua Rohr. And the cops go by one day and ask him, like, well, why doesn't he work? You know, if he's a veteran, why doesn't he do this? Why doesn't he do that? And he's like, well, I can't work. I have really bad PTSD. I have to have my service animal with me all the time. So the next day, the cops come by and they tase the service animal, and the service animal runs off, dies. They throw him in jail. It took us 9 months to get the body camera footage released. And then 2 days later, they shoot and kill a guy and won't release that body camera footage. And it's the same, police department over and over again. And all of this was caused by the fact that he was put out on the streets because he couldn't go to the church that they had closed for the fire code violations. I mean, it's just this repetitive
Yes.
thing where they're
Yes.
arresting people, and he was arrested for standing on a median of a road. I mean, that was the law that they eventually decided he was guilty of. And
Oh,
it
they
was,
figured out one they got him for? Okay, well, gotta put him in jail for something. Let's figure this one out. Okay. Wow.
yeah,
Wow. So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
let me if you're watching or listening now, do me a favor, follow what D is doing on Twitter. Head over to elect D Watson. And if you're listening, it's DEE Watson. So elect D Watson on Twitter, or check out what she's doing at Gastonia and help out with youarethepower.net/Gastonia. Again, youarethepower.net/Gastonia to see if you can help out, particularly if you're in North Carolina. That would be even better. If you're not, still, you can always use the help, but particularly if it's in your area, because you're probably seeing the same issues that D is seeing. You probably care about your community the same way she does. And if we're going to be libertarians and we're going to talk the talk, we got to walk the walk. And look, government's not going to solve the problem, just going to create more. Someone's got to solve them. I know some of you are shocked. What? Government can't solve all the problems? I know you're shocked to hear that, but it is true. So someone's got to try to solve them. And that's us. So I'm very happy that Dee is here telling us about this. So please support her if you can. So making this happen, do you see, I'm assuming then you see that the running the candidates, sorry, that you did, meeting the people, going to the forums and such, you gathered some bodies who are ready to take action. The question I have, though, is since you were in forums with other Democrats and Republicans, were you able to draw any of them into these, things like body cam issues or homeless issues, or is it really only libertarians?
So on the body cam footage issue, we actually have several Democrats who have sponsored legislation, and we've been working with them, and we're trying to find. We have some of those Liberty Caucus Republicans that we're trying to work
Yep.
with, because we need a Republican co-sponsor to the bill, and we're trying. That's what we're working on, and they're a little more receptive to us sometimes than they are to the Democrats. So we're trying to kind of bridge that, but we actually have several Democrats who are willing to sponsor legislation for the
But
body
this is what
camera
I talk
footage.
about all the time, right? People always tease me and say, Larry, you sitting here running for the Libertarian Party and pushing the Libertarian Party so much. Why don't you just instead join the Republicans, join the Democrats, blah, blah, blah. And what I say is the value of the Libertarian Party isn't just it being libertarian, but it's that we are be able to be the bridge builders, the peacemakers. And you are proving that, D. You are literally proving my theory. Thank you. You are proving my theory that we actually can get both sides to come together to create joint bills to solve problems with both sides of the aisle, where a Democrat may not want to talk to a Republican because, oh my God, the evil Republican, and then they're going to get mad and maybe lose their seat. Republican won't want to talk to the evil Democrat. Oh, why you like Democrats? Lose your seat. But a Libertarian, oh, okay. Well, see, it's not me. It's that crazy D. She's the nutty one, right? So yeah, it's just her. It's not me. It's her. So all of a sudden now they can make the conversation and make things happen. So thank you for making me right.
Oh,
Yes.
anytime. If it's libertarian, we can do that. But actually, we're trying to run candidates for the Gastonia City Council in 2023 to try to work on that. And we're actually focusing on these nonpartisan local races. And they're not as good on messaging, but there's a lot of people who are receptive to this message. And those are all winnable races. And that's
Yeah.
what we're looking for right now.
Well, the second piece you brought up, right, is if you're running a candidate and a candidate does well, and I would say breaks 5%, right, as an idea, just whatever breaks 5, or depending upon the race, sometimes breaking 5% is not enough, sometimes it is enough, depends upon your race, right? But if they break enough of whatever seems valuable in that race, whatever that number is, right? If they pass that number, then the Democrat and a Republican in that race have to start thinking, wait a minute, they pulled X percent. Maybe I should start looking at what these libertarians are saying, right? Because if I don't, I may lose 6% next time or 8% next time or whatever the case may be. So you start changing the conversation just by getting a decent amount in any given race, even if you don't win. So I think that's another critical aspect that people don't realize. The Libertarian Party doesn't have to win every race to make impact, right? Of course, I want us all to win. Of course I do. But I'm being realistic, right? We can still have impact without winning. And I think you're seeing that, right?
We can absolutely have impact without winning. We actually just changed the discourse completely with these forums. I mean, we get them on the record on video saying stuff to us because they want to, especially in these races where we don't have somebody, they want to woo our voters. So they have to say stuff, and then we put it on video and put it out there and get them committed to these, libertarian principles. We do that all the time, and it's really impactful. But also, there's a candidate in Cumberland County, Christina, and she ran for Soil and Water. She had over 36,000 votes and lost by 6.
Tell me what Soil and Water means.
Soil and Water is this race where it's just like being it's a government position, and it helps like how to use land wisely. And if you think the principles of not polluting your neighbor's lawn, so it's to prevent pollution. So it has to do with like new development and the impact of that. So she had 36,000 votes and she lost by 65.
Wow,
so
that's a lot of votes.
Yeah, it's really a shame that she lost by 65 votes after getting 36,000. But we're trying to win these races. I mean, and that scares people.
Yeah, it does.
And it's terrible she lost, but on the other hand, she became the candidate coordinator for the state. And you need to get involved locally if you want to win these races, which is what she was doing in just getting that message. And I am not. I absolutely am committed to running state legislature candidates, Senate and House, and we'll keep doing that in North Carolina and expanding. But
No, but
we're going to
what other
win.
people don't realize, and they think that these seats that often go, unopposed are just open seats. They aren't. They get filled, right? And usually they get filled as they're used to reward cronies. So that's a very common thing, right? So now there's no one runs for whatever soil or whatever is the office, right? Transportation's whatever, right? No, they don't run for these things, right? So now these are open. So now they must be appointed. Well, who do I put in there? I put in people that my donors want me to have there. Well, all of a sudden, libertarians start running for these seats. Well, I don't get my freebies to give to my donors anymore, right? So now I'm worried. Wait a minute. I can't just give this seat to one of my cronies or my cronies' friends or whatever. Uh-oh. Now I've got to react. And I think that's a critical aspect. Am I missing something in North Carolina? I know it's how it is in New York.
No, I mean, all these seats are contested in North Carolina. Like where I live, there's no Moulton maneuver going on in Wake County, North Carolina. These are contested seats.
Is that right? All of them are. That's not the same here in New York. There are some that just not
it depends on. So we actually did a search. There were like 4,000 elected, like 4,000 out of 4,000. I think it was less than 12 that had more availability than candidates running. So yeah, it's not a place that's ripe for the Moulton maneuver. There's like literally less than half a dozen.
For those of you listening or watching who don't know what the Moulton maneuver is, it was a thing in Pennsylvania, which I think they're trying to stop now, if I'm not mistaken, which was there were two types of parties in Pennsylvania. There's like the major party and minor party. And in an attempt to hurt the minor party, which it didn't work at all, there's different deadlines for major parties and minor parties in when you want to say if you're running for something. So what the minor party, Libertarian Party, was doing is waiting until after the deadline of the major party to see if anyone had said yes to it, and then saying, oh, right now, we're in. And then they'd be the only person running, and they would win by default. Now, New York doesn't have that because we don't have major minor party status, so we don't have that. I don't know if North Carolina has that.
We don't. In North Carolina, we're just a party. We're just a political party. We have all the same rules as the Democrats or Republican. But even so, even after the filing deadline, there's still hardly any races where you could have used the Moulton maneuver. It's really, and in my county, there's not a single one. There's not a single race where you didn't have more people. Like for soil and water, it's a win too. We had 5 candidates. So everybody's running these really full slates. It's just really competitive.
Different way of doing it. I like that idea. I wish we had that in New York. We don't have that. So Dustin says, Wake County represent. Well, there we go. Dustin's here. Thank you, Dustin. I'm glad Dustin's here. So
come to our local meetup.
See, now you gotta go do something, Dustin. You messed up. You raised your hand. Now you got to show up. So yes, absolutely. So I guess the place I want to go to next with this one is, okay, you've had some impact. That's great. What's next? Right? What's the next step? And I would say not just for you, but even for your local party. For you, of course, but also your local party. What's the next step?
So in 2023, we're going to focus on these local races. It's an off-year election, and we want to get our strategy revamped. Wake County, the county that I live in, is kind of a leader in the state of North Carolina. So we had 19 of the candidates, but there were only 34 candidates, I think, in the whole state. So we had, more than half the candidates in one county. And we want to take that.
Is the population of Wake County that much bigger?
It's like 10% of the state. So
not 50% of the state.
Not 50%, but it's 10%. It has Raleigh in the triangle, and it's a very tech savvy county. It's almost like, it's not like San Francisco, but it's like would be in the top 5 for the most tech savvy areas in the country. So it's kind of a different thing, and it's a higher income area. And we have so there's over 6,000 registered libertarians in Wake County, which would mean like we're more than 3 times the size of Delaware. And there's a million people, so it's a big area. We want to take the strategy and try to export it to the other counties and really just take it all over the state. We found that we're very good at costing the Republicans and Democrats money in these races.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they frequently will not like a lot of people are in two-way races. There's a lot of potential for two-way races because they're kind of gerrymandered a bit. So it'll be a Democrat safe. Yeah, a Democrat safe or Republican safe district. And for $140, we can challenge them.
God, I wish we had ballot access in New York State. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. Yeah. In my area where we are in New York, I live in New York City, and New York City is so Democratic to Republican. It's about almost 7-1. It's like 6-1, 7-1 Democrat to Republican. And in my place where I live, AOC is my congressperson. That's where I live.
Oh, wow. That's really Democratic.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. And she didn't bother showing up last time almost at all and still won by 30 points. Didn't even matter, right? In my local city council and my assembly, I mean, people hardly even run, right? For when it comes to my assembly district, the Republicans haven't even run a candidate at all in 10 years. Like, haven't run a candidate. So whoever wins the primary, that's the candidate. That's the person who wins. They don't even bother running anybody. So literally, if we just had ballot access, we could run two-way races all over the place.
You can, and you'll find that for every dollar you spend, they'll spend 100. I mean, easy. That's Yeah, I have a friend, and he spent. So he was in a three-way race, but he spent probably less than $1,000, and the Democrats spent over $2 million.
Wow, so. That's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so that tells me what they're going to be doing. How about you, Dee? What are you doing?
So I'm not sure about going locally. It's going to depend on if I can get a network set up for a town council run. I'm also I'm going to run for my local affiliate again, inter-party politics stuff. But I'm actually really, really focused on this candidate issues. Working with Christina, we're trying to expand things across North Carolina and come up with 100 county strategy and pointing.
There's 100 counties in North Carolina?
They're small. Some of them are really small, but what we found is we actually recently are focusing on really updating our analytics. So in the area that I live, I know this sounds strange because analytics is like a really high tech, high income thing, but so I have an analytics background. I worked at Duke as a statistician for 10 years. I worked in pharma as a data analyst for 10 years. And I can't go to a local meetup without like hitting another analytics person, right? So we finally got the idea to like actually use analytics, right? So
not a bad idea. You got a skill set, use it, right? Sure. Makes sense.
So we have a strategy of really utilizing that and trying to station people willing to run for just about anything for the Libertarian Party who are active in their community to try to like look for those races that are winnable. And that's our current strategy, as well as using these legislature races for messaging, because for these legislature races, there's all these guides, like there's the League of Women Voters guide. There's all these surveys, and you can, they're basically really cheap advertising. For $140, you get all this free advertising to spread the message, and people read it. And it has really made a difference in North Carolina for just people being familiar with what libertarians stand for.
Well, Brian did some homework for you. Brian says, I have a screenshot of the Gastonia PD claiming a specific section of North Carolina code requiring them to only accept a state-issued ID. When you read that code section, it only says that a citation must have a name and address. It says nothing about the acceptable way to get that info.
That is absolutely right. And you only need a driver's license if you're actually driving in North Carolina. And he's referring to Josh Aurora, who had a government issued military ID, but he couldn't get a driver's license with an address on it because he's homeless. So So this was part of what was involved. I mean, it's just almost like they're using these laws in the most manipulative way. A matter of fact,
Yep.
they so after Joshua's camera was released and Jason Lipscomb, Black Lives Matter was protesting, and they arrested somebody for his name's Scotty Reed, and they arrested him just for standing there with his phone videotaping
Yep.
because they said he was too court. But he was. It says protesting. He wasn't impeding somebody. He didn't even have a sign. He was just with a phone videotaping, and they're basically using this to arrest people, kind of twisting definitely the intent and probably, I mean, my understanding of the law itself, and they make these arrests and then they make it very difficult. They drag it out in the court systems to try to move it into a plea deal.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
they hold that over the people, and it's almost like then for Scotty's arrest, they used a very high bail rate for, given what it was like a $3,000 bail for videotaping with his phone too close to the courthouse, which
Well,
isn't
because
even
clearly he's a
illegal.
danger to society. I mean, clearly.
I think that I am concerned that they're trying to break the bail fund, right? Because he doesn't have $3,000. I mean, this is
Yes.
what they did to Joshua. He's homeless. He didn't
Correct.
have the $2,000 bail.
Yes.
So this kind of thing is being used over and over again in this
I
area.
will never forget a prosecutor who said he's innocent until proven broke.
That's exactly what's going on.
Totally true. All the
Yeah.
time, and they know it, and they're doing it on purpose.
Mhm.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
That's not a good way to, I don't want to end on that. Let's end on something positive. You're doing well here. You're crossing all the counties of North Carolina and making change, right?
Absolutely. And we want to be in every single county, and that's our goal.
I love that. County by county, local to eventually move to the top. I think that's an amazing way of doing things. Dee, have I missed anything? Is something that we should be going over that I missed?
And that's about it. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
No, I love it. People, please follow what Dee is doing. Head over to Elect D Watson. If you're only listening, it's D Watson on Twitter, Elect D Watson. And also check out what they're doing in Gastonia. youarethepower.net/Gastonia. When you have a moment, check that out. See what's going on. I want to thank you all for showing up tonight. I really do appreciate today, I should say. Thank you all for showing up today. I will see you all very soon.
Thank you so much.